What's up, everybody? I'm Dan Korth, and I'm so excited to welcome you today to the Engineered Impact podcast. I'm excited because today I get to talk to you about one of my very, very favorite things. It's something that was a complete mental breakthrough for me and absolutely changed the direction of my life. When I was growing up, my family loved to watch old musicals. The old musicals from the 50s and 60s where they'd sing and dance and give everybody the feeling that they were on Broadway, right? One of my favorites is The Music Man. If you don't know the story, it's about a guy that he's a con artist, and he goes to these Midwest towns and pretends to be a music professor. Anyway, he cons people out of a bunch of money by pretending he's going to teach their kids to uh, form a band, right? And so as part of the con, he always searches out the local music teacher and tries to woo her and get her to fall in love with him so that she doesn't expose him as the fraud that he is, because he doesn't know anything about music. Anyway, he in the movie, he's in one of these little Midwestern towns in Iowa, and the music teacher is slowly falling for him. But anyway, at one point, he's trying to get her to go out on a date, and she's trying to come up with all these excuses, and then she says she'd go out with him tomorrow, right? And one of my very favorite quotes is he says, "If you pile up enough tomorrows, you'll find you're left with nothing but a lot of empty yesterdays. I don't know about you, but I'd like to make today worth remembering." I've always loved that because it's so true. We seem to be hardwired to live for this nebulous future that we call someday, right? And that used to be me, and it's something we all fight. But um, maybe some of these sound familiar to you, right? I promised my wife for years that someday we'd go to Hawaii, right? Someday we'd take our kids to Europe. Someday we'd buy a house that was actually big enough for our family. And I told myself things like, someday I'll get back into good physical shape. Someday I'll go read all those books I want to read. Someday I'll buy a motorcycle and I'll buy a truck. Someday I'll get a pilot's license. Someday I'll do work that absolutely lights me on fire and makes a huge impact in the world, right? And for me, someday was always this distant, day in the future when I'd be financially free, when I could retire early and have the time and the money to do all the things that I'd always put off doing. And in my head, in this someday fantasy, I was also still young enough that my kids were at home and, available to enjoy these things and these experiences with my wife and I. And I still had the energy to go out and do these things that mattered, right? But what I found is that as the months, start to turn into years and then a decade passed in my professional life, I realized that someday wasn't coming fast enough. My kids were growing up, my career was passing me by, and I was learning and growing and doing well in my career. But deep down, I knew there was something more that I should be doing. I knew that there was a much bigger impact that I was capable of having through my work as a husband, as a father, and I just felt like something was missing. And eventually it became clear that unless something drastically changed, someday was never going to come, right? Now, I didn't want to end up being one of those stats of people on their deathbed regretting that they'd never attempted to live up to their potential, right? They'd never dared to live the life that they dreamed of. I didn't want to be that guy. And I've shared before that my wife, kind of early on in our financial journey, we were working in this 10-year plan, which is better than someday, right? But it was still kind of out there. And all of this kind of came crashing together for me one morning as we were getting ready for the day. And I shared with my wife something that I had been thinking about a lot and worrying about a lot. And that was that I realized that 10 years was not going to be fast enough. Our oldest child and possibly our two oldest children would be gone by the time that 10-year time frame was up. And I told her at that point, who cares? What's the point, right? Being financially free at that point, like they're going to be off in college, they're going to be having their own families. We can't go to Europe. We can't go to Hawaii with them. We will have missed it. And what will it all have been for? And it just occurred to me that financial freedom was not going to matter nearly as much when my kids, who were such a huge part of my motivation to become financially free in the first place, weren't going to be around to share the benefits of it. I didn't want to be the dad that, got there and looked back and thought, I missed it. I missed their childhood, right? Unfortunately, and I started to share this story in the last episode. Fortunately, I met some people who showed me a completely new reality and a new way to live. Um, they they helped me realize that I didn't have to be financially free to start living a wealthy life. In fact, they helped me understand that if I delayed living a wealthy life until I had achieved some definition of financial freedom, I was never going to manage to live a wealthy life. Because living wealthy is not a financial thing. It's a state of mind. Okay. It's a way of life, and money is only a tool in the equation that helps facilitate all of the other aspects of what a wealthy life is. Okay. That was the breakthrough that I needed. I needed to understand that it all starts in my head. Okay. Um, and so I started looking at, what can I be doing right now with the circumstances I have, with the finances that I have, with the job that I have, with the family that I have. What can I be doing right now to live a wealthy life, right? Well, first off, I had to figure out what the heck does that mean? Because if it's not a number, right? It's not a financial thing. What does it mean to live a wealthy life, right? And I started having to look at some of these other areas of my life that frankly I'd neglected for a long time. So for me, I decided I need to be healthier. I need to be more intentional about the work that I'm doing at my job. I need to be more intentional about deciding are the things outside my job that I can be doing to make a contribution to the world. I needed to be much more intentional about the investments I was making in my relationships with my family, with my wife, with my kids, with my friends, my extended family. And as I started to look at these things and realize that money was just a tool to enable me to make these kinds of investments in the other areas of my life, right? In my health, in my relationships, in my work, my spirituality. Money was just a tool to free me up in those things. And there were things I could do in each of those areas right now, starting from where I was, right? It didn't matter how rich I was. It didn't matter how poor I was. There were things I could be doing, actions I could be taking right then and there. And so that's what I started doing. I started looking at what actions can I be taking right now, right? Setting some targets. What do I want to achieve in my health? What do I want to achieve in my marriage? What do I want to achieve with my children? What do I want to achieve in my job? And what action can I be taking in each of those areas right now, regardless of my financial state, right? So I wanted to share just a couple of stories of how I started to make those kinds of investments. All right. Now, first off, to me, my relationship with my wife is one of the most important things. But I had, to a large degree, neglected one of the most important aspects of that. And that was making sure that she and I had time on a regular basis to be together, to just talk about things that mattered to us, and to continue to foster our relationship. When you've got young kids at home, it's easy to kind of let that become your relationship with your spouse. Those, parenting can come to dominate that. And I've talked to friends that are a little bit older than I am that have shared how once their kids left, they kind of stepped back and weren't sure they had a relationship left with their spouse because for, 20, 30 years, whatever it was that they had kids at home, that was all they had in common. And so one of the things that my wife and I started doing is we decided we needed to go on a weekly date. I'll be honest, we had not gone on a lot of dates in a long, long time, really since we started having kids. Partly because, babysitters were expensive and we lived in California for a long time and we were broke. And I was trying to scrimp and save every penny, and, dates cost money. And so anytime we go on a date, that's taking money away from financial freedom. And I got to be financially free so I can go on dates, right? It was this toxic cycle. And so I had to break free of that, right? Again, I had to make a decision. This is an investment, just like buying a piece of property or buying a stock. Shares in a company is a financial investment. Going on a date, yes, it costs money, but it's an investment in a healthy relationship that matters a heck of a lot more than any of those financial investments do, right? Because if all the money went away for whatever reason, the markets crash, government implodes, whatever, when all of that goes away, what's left is me and my wife. And if that relationship isn't strong and it's not healthy, it's going to be hard to weather everything else, right? So we started doing that. We started going on dates again, and we started rediscovering how fun it was to just be together, just to be one-on-one and to talk about things that we enjoyed. And things that we were struggling with, and things that we wanted to go do. And that's something we've tried to do. Now, we're not perfect at it. We don't get it every week, especially right now while we're in quarantine for COVID-19. But before this, we were doing really well. And that's something we want to continue. That's become a very special, almost sacred time and thing that we like doing together. Okay. Now, another thing was I mentioned I needed to invest in my health. Okay. A few months before I'd kind of started working with this group and kind of had this breakthrough, I'd been talking to a friend that was really into obstacle course racing. And I never actually heard of it until he mentioned it. But I went home. He did Spartan races. Spartan races, if you're not familiar, it's one of the circuits of these grown-up obstacle course races. And so I'd never heard of him. He was kind of describing it. So I went home and I hopped on YouTube and I searched Spartan Race, and I started watching these guys climbing ropes and, hoisting these big, huge bags and jumping over walls and running through mud. And I'm like, man, that looks fun. But as I researched, I found out you got to run to do these things. I hate running. I've always hated running. Even when I was in track in high school, running just 'cause I hate it. When I was in track, I tried sprinting for one season, couldn't stand it. So the next season I went back and I started long and triple jumping because I enjoyed the jumping and I could stomach the running when I knew it was leading towards the jumping. Okay. So, I looked at that and I'm like, I gotta run. That's like the smallest one was like a 5K. I'm like, there's no possible way I could run 3 miles. Right. I haven't run since high school. I didn't even like it then when I was in shape. Now I'm old and overweight and whatever. But I kind of had this in the back of my mind. And so as I started working with this group, I started changing my mindset, realizing that, to live a wealthy life, I need a healthy body to do that. And if the opportunity to go challenge myself physically to do, the obstacles look fun, and it would be a significant test of my strength and my endurance. I was like, all right, if the price to do that, if the price to get in shape to be the kind of guy that can go run a Spartan race is I got to run a 5K, there's got to be a way to do it, right? Even for an old guy like me with achy joints. And so I signed up. I dropped, I think it was like $100 that I dropped to sign up for this race. Because once I signed up for it, I'm like, all right, now I'm committed. I got to go do this thing, right? So I found an app that it was a Couch to 5K program, which I'd never heard of, but I was like, all right, let's give it a shot because that's where I'm at, right? And it started out, and day one I get out there, and I don't remember exactly. It was like I had to run for I think a minute, and then I would walk for a minute and a half, and it was awful. 30 seconds into those minutes, those intervals, and I think I had to do it like 8 times. And 30 seconds into it, I'm just dragging and I'm wanting to die and collapse in the street. I'm out there at like 5 a.m. It's dark outside, and it was awful. I'm like, there's no possible way I'm ever going to be able to run 3 miles, right? But I kept at it, and I got through that first week, and then the next week it ramped up, and I think I had to run for a minute and a half, and then I had to run for 2 minutes. And every week, every time I got out there, I hated it, but I did it, and I could run a little bit further every week, a little bit further every week. And long story short, in 3 months, lo and behold, I could run 3 miles without stopping. It was amazing. Today I can run 4 miles without stopping. So I did the Spartan race. A couple of weeks later, I did what's called a terrain race, which is just another obstacle course circuit with my 2 sons. That was an absolute blast. I never thought I'd be able to do things like that with my boys, right? They're young, can't keep up with them, but I did it. I just did it again earlier this year with them, and it's so fun. And one of my younger boy, he was a little bit nervous about some of those obstacles, and it was just so cool to be out there with him and kind of coach and encourage him through that, and help him see that, you can do these things too. And to feel like I could be that dad I can be out there with my boys, right? I don't have to be the guy on the sideline cheering him. I can be out there in the mud, in the dirt, climbing next to him and encouraging him and showing him you can do this. And it was just such a cool experience. And I lost weight. I got in shape. I was stronger. I felt better. I felt healthier. Today I weigh about the same I did when I graduated from high school. I never thought I would see that weight again. it's been amazing what that's done for me. And having a healthy body has not only made me feel better, but it's given me a confidence that I didn't have before. It's given me energy and the strength to go and confidence that I can do other hard things, right? Every day when I still hate running, but I get out there and I try to do it a few times a week because I've learned that it's one of the best mental toughness exercises. And so as I go to other areas of my life where I'm trying to do hard things, I think, all right, if I can get my butt out there in the street and run 3 or 4 miles, hating every minute of it, I can do this too. All right. So that was a huge personal win for me. Another thing, my wife and I had planned a trip to Disneyland. This is back in 2018 when all this was going on. Okay. We planned to go to Disneyland in September of 2018. So it was like 3 weeks after I'd started working with these guys that were helping me with this breakthrough. And, I was a guy that whenever we'd go on vacation, I wanted to stay in the cheap hotel. We're going to split a meal. Nobody's going to get drinks. And every time I got to pull my credit card out the whole vacation, I'm going to sigh loudly and roll my eyes. And my wife's going to go, okay. And so she's going to, it's going to bother her, and she's going to try and figure out how do we do this on the cheap. And I'd ruin it. Right. I was stupid about it. So, as I started thinking about what does it mean to live a wealthy life, I made a conscious decision. You know what? We are going to go to Disneyland. It's going to cost several $1,000s, but we've got the money. We can afford to do this. I'm going to go and enjoy every single penny, and we're going to do the stuff that I would never have done before, right? We're going to eat in the park. We're going to buy the $20 hot dogs, right? We're going to buy the $10 ice cream cones, just all of the things that we would never do, because to me, that's what rich people did, right? That was the stuff I could never afford to do, but that was just a story I was telling myself, right? It was just that I would never allow myself to spend the money. And so I made a conscious decision. To me, doing those kinds of things defines a wealthy life. So we're going to go do those because we can't afford to, right? We're at a point in our life where we're able to do that. I'm going to go do it. There's not going to be any eye rolling. There's not going to be any sighing. I'm going to be the one saying, hey, let's go do this. Let's go buy a churro, right? And we did it, and it was awesome. It was so much fun. And instead of worrying about, lunch is going to cost $60 and it's just hot dogs and potato chips, right? I got to we got to stop and do that stuff, and then we could go hop on Splash Mountain, and I could spend my time and energy encouraging my daughter, who was nervous about, as you're waiting in line, you see him coming down this massive hill and splashing in the water, and my daughter was really nervous about it. So I got to be trying to psych her up instead of worrying about how much stuff cost. And we had so much fun, and we'd never had that kind of experience before. And it was all me just deciding to be cool about it, and to decide that it was okay for us to have a rich life experience. Okay. So as these things started to happen, it allowed me to start opening up and just looking at what else can I be doing, right? What else have I been missing out on? What opportunities are out there? So I'd go to work, and I'd start looking around for opportunities to take on new projects and find guys that I could mentor, younger engineers that I could mentor, and kind of grow a team organically. There's not a lot of guys, or not a lot of people at work that do what I do. And so I had an opportunity to work with my leadership and help bring on a couple of younger engineers that I could mentor and kind of get them going and introduce them to people and help them start building their networks. And I found so much satisfaction in that, because not only could I do a good job, but now I was finding I could expand my influence and help these other engineers do a good job and start to feel the satisfaction of taking ownership and doing things. I started doing some financial coaching on the side, helping other people kind of have some of the revelations and breakthroughs I'd had, and see how they could start on a path to their own financial freedom. And all of these things became possible just because of a mental switch, right? Now, for me, it was quick, but I think, all of the struggles and all the things I'd had in the years leading up to it had put me in a position where I was ready for that message when it came. Okay. And really the big difference was just, I realized I didn't have to wait for someday. And I couldn't wait for someday because someday would never come. If I didn't start taking intentional action to change things, someday would never come, right? But I could make today worth remembering. I could make today worth living and do whatever I could do today with the resources I had, with the time that I had, with the people around me and the circumstances I was in to make a difference for me, for my family, and for whoever else within my circle of influence I could help, right? So what I had to realize, what you have to realize if you're struggling with someday, if you plan to live your life someday like I was doing, what you have to realize, you will never have enough time. You will never have enough money. You will never be ready for opportunity to do something great, to tap you on the shoulder, unless you decide that someday is today and make a conscious decision to start living a life of abundance and purpose right now. Okay. Now, can you do everything you want to do right away? No. Right. I'm still working on figuring out how we're going to go to Europe with the kids. Right. But is there something you can do today to start moving closer to those things? Yeah, there absolutely is. Right. So ask yourself, what is it you really want? Okay. What do you want your marriage to look like? What do you want your relationship with your children to look like? Where do you want to live? What kind of car do you want to be driving? Where do you want to be vacationing? What kind of work do you want to be doing? How much do you want to be making from that work? What kind of an impact do you want to be having in your job, in your community, right? Ask yourselves these kinds of things. Picture what does that someday life look like? Okay. What does it feel like? Okay. The next thing you got to figure out is, once you have this picture in your head of, what, where you're at today, right? You know in your head what this someday looks like. Okay. So the next thing is, ask yourself, why do those things matter to you, right? Why does living in that place, or driving that car, or vacationing in those certain spots, or having a certain impact at work, or doing a certain kind of work, or making a certain amount of money, what is it about those things that appeals to you that, right now, that only lives in your head? But why does that excite you? Why does that motivate you? Okay. What is it about that version of you that's attractive? Okay. And if you're like me, it's because somewhere deep down inside, you know that that's the version of you that you are capable of becoming. You know that that's the version of you were born to be. Okay. That's the version of you who's living a life on fire, that gets up every day determined to make an impact in his marriage, in the lives of his children, in his work, and in himself. Okay. Now, just thinking about that guy gets you as fired up as it does me. Good. I hope so. Okay. When I think about that guy, I get excited. And you should too. If you're not excited about it, then you need to go back to step one and figure out what really gets you excited, right? If you thought, I want to be driving a Hyundai Elantra, and that didn't get you excited, upgrade it to a Mustang or an F-150 or Ferrari, whatever is going to get you fired up, okay? Because unless you're excited about it, you're not going to be able to change, okay? Because that's going to require determination that only that vision will give you, okay? Now, once you understand what you want, once you have a vision that you are excited about that does get you fired up, then the last thing you need to figure out is, what is the difference between the person in your head and the person you are today, okay? And what do you need to do to start to close the gap so that one day at a time, when you wake up and you look in the mirror, the person you're looking at starts to look a little more like that person in your head every single day, okay? Who do you need to spend more time with? What do you need to do to enhance your marriage and relationship with your kids? What books do you need to read? What new relationships do you need to foster professionally? What new skills do you need to develop? How do you need to change the way you make your money, you save your money, you spend and invest your money? Okay. What health habits do you need to change so that you're physically capable of doing what you need to do? What kind of life experiences can you start creating now to reinforce your new way of life? Like our Disneyland trip, right? That reinforced for me, I live a wealthy life now. I am someone who invests money in experiences, okay? And once I did that, I came home and I started looking at, okay, now what? That Disneyland was awesome, right? What are we going to do next? Start asking yourself these kinds of questions. and then start making a plan to make those changes. Okay. Pick one thing at a time, make a plan, start executing it, and start becoming the person you were born to be. Okay. Now, is that going to be a straight line? Absolutely not. There's going to be days that absolutely suck. There are going to be days you hate this, right? I mentioned I hate running to this day, every single day. I hate it, but I do it because I've seen the benefits that come from it. It makes everything else in my life better. And that gives me the determination to get up in the dark, in the cold, and to go do it, right? And it's those results that are going to fuel the fire, that keep the fire burning so that you stay committed, right? The motivation is going to wear off quickly. But the results that you see as you stick to your guns, as you pursue this and you keep that vision in your head and you remind yourself why these things matter, that's what will fuel you to get up and keep going, right? That's not going to happen in a day, right? It's not going to happen in a week. But as you start to make incremental progress each day, faster than you think, you're going to start to see those results, right? You're going to start to change. And one day, sooner than you think, you're going to wake up and you're going to look back and you'll be amazed at how far you've come, right? I mean, just like when I was running, right? That first week, I'm running a minute at a time and thinking there's no way I can ever run 3 miles, right? But 3 months later, I look back, I was like, holy cow, I can't believe that used to be hard to just run a minute at a time, because now I can do 30 minutes at a time, right? So what I want you to understand, becoming this person is not an event, okay? It's a process. And part of the thing that I'm falling in love with is this process, right? The fact that there is no finish line anymore. There's not a vision of me that I get to someday and then I stop, right? I get to do this every day for the rest of my life. And every time I achieve a part of my vision, I get to just envision more, right? I get to figure out, okay, I did that. That was awesome. Now what, right? The stuff and the experiences, I mean, the Disneylands and the cars and the houses and all that stuff, that's cool, right? But the joy that you're going to derive from this process is the growth and the personal change, because that's what sticks with you, right? That's the part that you can take with you. The cars, the money, the houses, whatever, that's all going to stay here. But the growth that you achieve as you became the person capable of having those things, you do get to take that with you, right? That goes with you your entire life. So, buying the dream car, getting the dream house, taking the vacation, getting the dream job, all of that stuff's cool, right? But they're temporary highs. Chase the process. Go after becoming the person that's willing to do the intentional hard work, that's willing to work through the challenges, that's willing to push through the hard days and keep getting up, and day by day becoming the person you were born to be. Okay, that's the journey I'm on. That's the journey of discovery, of becoming the person I was born to be, to make an impact with my family, with my work, and within my circle of influence, so that when I'm on my deathbed, I can look back and know that if I didn't do everything I was born to do, I sure tried hard to do it, right? To figure out what it was and to do it. Okay. So going forward, that's what I want to talk about in this podcast, right? What does this process look like? It's fun and it's exciting to talk about this pie in the sky. I'm going to go change the world, right? But when the thrill wears off and the hard work starts, it's real easy to get distracted. It's real easy to get discouraged and disillusioned and settle back into a life of mediocrity. But again, I know deep down I'm capable of more, and there's a voice inside me that won't let me sit still. If you're listening to this, I got a suspicion that you're the same way, that deep down, you know that you were born for more. You know that you're capable of more. Now, I don't have all the answers. I'm doing my best to muddle through an effort to become more, to do more. And I hope as I share the process I'm going through, we can talk about what this looks like, right? How we do it. I'm hoping to find other people that are on the same journey, that are further along in the process, that are having a real impact, that are living that dream, that are becoming the people that are capable of becoming in their personal and professional lives, and bring them on, talk to them about their experiences. All right. So guys, I am fired up. I'm excited to move forward. Again, your homework for today is to ask yourself those 3 questions, right? What do you want out of your life? Create a vision that you are excited about. Okay. Then ask yourself, why does it matter to you? Okay. And then the last one is the hard one, right? Who do you have to become so that you are capable of doing all that's required of you to become that person in your head? Okay. So give those things some thought, write it down, and I will catch you on the next episode. Till then, have a great day.